My parents moved into my house while I was on my vacation and changed the locks, so I kicked them out and made them homeless. My parents had 2 children, Derek, their 35-year-old basement baby who only showered in gold bricks, and me, the ATM they birthed by accident. While I worked 2 jobs at 16 to buy my own groceries, Derek got a Mercedes for failing community college. Family helps family, they'd say, which translated to, you help Derek, Derek helps himself. When I was about to graduate high school, Derek told our parents he wanted to start a music career. They emptied my entire college fund overnight and gave it to him. When I tried saying no and raising my voice, they told me, you should have just gotten a scholarship. Derek needs this more than you. Meanwhile, he had already spent 20 grand on gaming consoles and anime body pillows. I waited tables throughout my undergrad while Derek streamed Fortnite to 3 viewers. Then I got my first real job at an insurance firm, which was supposed to be my big breakthrough. My parents showed up one day and claimed I had mental health issues, so I needed parental supervision. They made an entire scene where they nitpicked every single thing I did and disturbed the entire office. They told me they were just concerned for their daughter, but never helped me after I was fired for being a liability. I never told them about where I worked after that day. When I finally built a life and bought a house for myself, my parents always said, this house is too big for one person. You should let Derek move in. I brushed it off and told them he was doing just fine in their basement. 2 months after I bought the house, I went for a vacation to celebrate with my friends. When I got back, the driveway was blocked by my parents' car. I panicked and immediately ran to the door, but my key didn't work. I realized the locks had been changed, so I called the police and told them my parents were trespassing. My dad opened the door and handed the police a fake deed which had their name on it. The officer left after telling me this was a civil matter despite my numerous protests. I was on the verge of tears from how angry I was, and my dad had the audacity to say, now that you're back, you can move into the guest room. Derek took the master bedroom and we took the other one. We can finally be a happy family now. I walked in, saw how my entire kitchen was filled with stuff I have never seen, and lost it. I moved my stuff into the guest room for the time being and called a lawyer because there was no way I was going to let them live here. To my surprise, the lawyer told me this was winnable but would take years. Years of them living in my house and uprooting my life. No, I needed them gone sooner. So I decided to take the non-legal route. My parents had always made sure Derek was untouchable, so I knew if I targeted him, that's what would hurt them the most. I played the good sister to Derek and even gave him advice on how to get a girlfriend until he felt comfortable letting me inside his room. Then one night while he and my parents were at a restaurant, I booted up his gaming PC. I searched for one thing and one thing only: underage illegal videos. Then I started downloading each one I came across without any VPN or security measures. I think I installed around 2 terabytes of them before putting them all into a hidden folder labeled My Favorite Stuff and left it on Derek's computer. Then I left to stay at a friend's house so I could safely watch the fallout. Derek came home and kept using it without realizing what happened, so he was caught completely off guard when SWAT raided his house 2 days later. The door was completely kicked in, and both Derek and my parents were put in handcuffs. While my parents were released after the house was searched, Derek was taken into custody. They couldn't believe that Derek was in trouble and ran behind the police cars to try and bail him out. That's when I made my move. I came back to the house with my friends, and we moved everything they owned and threw it out onto the streets. I even threw out the sofa and the bed that Derek had used, because I wouldn't be caught dead touching the same stuff as him. Then I changed the locks. When my parents came back the next day after failing to bail Derek out, they realized they couldn't get in. I looked at them through the window and my mother said, open the door, now. I smiled and gave her the middle finger before hiding behind the curtains. They screamed, yelled, and lectured me for over 2 hours, not to mention calling the cops. Thankfully, the cop told them the same thing he told me, to go pursue this in court. But since unlike me, they were just faking the documents, they obviously couldn't do that. They went to live at their own house with much reluctance. Then came the defense from my brother. My parents literally sold their house to afford the legal fees, and it still wasn't enough in the end. After 2 years of fighting, Derek was sentenced to 7 years in prison, and my parents lost not just their money, but also their prized golden son. Now they rotate between relatives' couches, begging the family for help, but hardly anyone wants to help them after what happened to Derek.